All right, let's do this. Day 18 of our month of completion. We have had a phenomenal time all month in working on at least one thing as hard as we possibly can and just simply seeing what God does. Thank you so much for joining tonight, night number 18, day 18 of our month of completion. And God has, again, He's met us every single day, every single night. As you come on tonight, you know the drill. God bless you. As you come on tonight, you know the drill. Do me a favor and go ahead and press that like button. If you like me, if you love me, hold that button a little longer. Comment and share. So good evening, Valerie. Good evening. T, what's up? I see you. Let me know you shared. Callie Grant, hello. Good evening. Blessings to you. We have a phenomenal guest tonight. I cannot wait for her to come on. I'm going to get out the way and let her do her thing. But as I say every single night, I like to preach what I practice and practice what I preach. So I asked you guys to share, ladies and gentlemen. So I am going to take a moment myself and just share as well. While I am sharing, find someone in the chat to just say hello to them. Find someone in the chat, say hello to them. And again, if you're just coming on tonight, as we all are 1 minute in, thank you so much for being a part tonight. All right, I am sharing as well. Month of completion. This is day 18. Bam, there we go. So I have shared as well. And let's go ahead and get deep into this tonight. So if this is your first time for some reason, some odd reason, someone has shared this with you, you clicked on this. This is our month of completion. My name is Terrell Wheat. And for the last few years, we have been doing this thing we call month of completion. In biblical numerology, we know the number 8 stands for new beginning. Well, about 4 years ago, the Lord spoke to me and said, Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, how are you going to keep saying new beginning and you have not finished what I told you to finish? And so I said, okay, yeah, new beginnings for everyone else, but this is the month of completion for me. And then I put it out there. I said, man, how many of you have some things that you have not finished? And I think the first message, like 4 years ago, I think was like chronic starters, like people who start things all the time but never finish. And that first year, so many testimonies, people finished things last year, which was our 3rd year. So many books were finished, so many goals were met. And so we are doing this again this year, 2020. This is our month of completion, and we are just past the halfway mark this month. We are at day 18. So thank you so much. Those who are coming on late tonight, it's 9 p.m. Central Standard Time and then 10 p.m. on the East Coast. So thank you. For all of those I missed, God bless you. Good evening to all of you. And if you are just coming on tonight and you have not shared, go ahead and share this with your friends tonight. And so I'm with you tonight. I'm on the other side of the screen tonight, and we have a special guest. I have my pen ready. I have my paper ready to take some notes. This is a woman of God. By the grace of God, He has divinely connected us through a good friend of ours. And this is my buddy, my friend. She is a real therapist, not just her name. And so some of you all that have been asking me, man, you know any therapists? Well, I said, let's bring one on. And I don't know what she's going to talk about tonight. And maybe you have some questions for her later that we can get into. But I'm just going to give her the floor, yield this time to her. Y'all say good evening to my friend, Celeste, the therapist.
Hi.
Say hello to my friend. This is my friend. Now, Celeste, you do a podcast. Somebody commented on my Facebook and said they love your podcast. And tell us like the numbers you reached, like what? Like
So I'm on episode 320.
320. That's what I'm talking about, consistency. And you're like in several different countries and all of those things.
Over 100 countries, over
Over
200,000 downloads. Yeah.
100 countries, 100,000 downloads.
200,000. Don't try to bring me down. Over 200,000. Come on now, Pastor Terrell. Don't play with the numbers now.
She only called me Pastor Terrell on here. That is cool. Earlier when she was talking, she's like, "Hey Terrell." So 200,000 downloads. So don't be trying to be all politically correct on here. But yeah, so they're saying hello to you. Thanks for coming on. Blessings. And so I'm gonna go backstage, Celeste, and I'm here. I'm taking notes. I can hear everything. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you. You came on, I think, either last year or the year before with me. So, you're the professional with 200,000 downloads and over 100 countries. So let me get on out the way. And thank you again so much for coming on. All right, it's all yours. I'm gone.
Right. Hey, y'all. So I'm going to start off with saying, Terrell, he messaged me last month, was like, can you come on? I was like, cool, I'll come on. I didn't know what we was going to be doing. I didn't know I was going to be by myself until today. I thought he was going to be having a conversation with me. But, it's Terrell. Pastor Terrell. It's Pastor Terrell. So for people who don't know who I am, good evening, everyone. I see everyone saying hello. I'm Celeste. I'm a therapist. And I have been working with people for over 20 years. I've been married for almost 13 years. I have 4 kids. Like you said, I have a podcast. I am also, I have a private practice as a mental health therapist that I've been doing since 2015. So I work full-time for myself. And I just kind of say all that to talk about all the different things that I do. But, as Terrell said, I'm on episode 320. I'm somebody that's a very mindful and a consistent, intentional person. My life didn't start off that way. It was something that I had to build myself up to do. And it's something that is available to everyone. But part of why, I think that we struggle with getting to where we are trying to go or where we know God wants us to be is because our lack of intentionality and our lack of stillness. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about, the importance of stillness and being intentional about your time. And as I've worked with so many people over the 20 years I've been in this mental health field, one of the common areas that people struggle with, that's very across the board, is that internal battle, that part that you can't see, but it's there. And, we have these tools and systems to deal with the external stuff, right? So if somebody's bleeding, we got the medicine cabinet, we grab a Band-Aid, and we take care of that wound. But, when it comes to that internal struggle, a lot of us don't have those tools that we should have to work on it. Our society, if you grew up in America, we really talk about, climbing the ladder of success with school, with marriage, with cars. So we start to think, because I don't have all of these outside things, that's the reason why I'm struggling. But nobody's talking about the other side of that. We talk about the external and the things, but we don't talk about, how am I feeling? How is my spirit? Am I being led by my wounds, right? And a lot of times, most of us are led by our wounds, not because that's what we want to do, but that's because no one's talked about a different way. And so I kind of want to talk about that intentional part and, what we can do for ourselves. And there's a lot of chaos happening in society, especially with the pandemic. Around the world, there's nothing but chaos going on. And it's so easy to get sucked into that chaos, right? If we are not mindful on how we are choosing to spend our time, then we are choosing for society to dictate the way it's going to go. And most of us, we are operating in just survival mode because it's the only mode that we've lived by. And when we start to take inventory of ourselves, that can be a really hard road. I think a lot of times people will talk up, you have people that are motivators and talk about, do this and do that, but they don't talk about that journey to getting to that point. And when you are taking inventory of your emotions, guilt comes up, shame comes up, regret comes up, disappointment, anxiety, right? So many different, all these vulnerable emotions are going to coming up. And what do we do with those vulnerable emotions? We try to stuff them down, right? Because they don't go nowhere. They don't disappear, right? They're sitting in our system. They're sitting in our body. I always talk to people about, when I grew up, I struggled with a lot of back pain. As I became older, more mindful and aware, I started to recognize when I'm struggling, when I'm overwhelmed, I feel like some pressures on my back. A lot of people aren't aware of the connection with our mind and our body, and how some of the physical ailments that you may be diagnosed with may be directly linked to the stresses that you have that you're not taking inventory of. So don't think that you can escape from one side of what you're feeling, right? I grew up in a system and where we were to be seen and not heard. And so a lot of the things that I was going through was not acknowledged. And so it's not that it went away. I tried to escape with school, with work, with partying. I tried to escape, but when you really think about it, how do you escape a part of you? Like, you can't escape your experiences because it's a part of who you are. And so many of us right now are feeling very fragmented, right? We're feeling very broken. And it's like, why wouldn't you feel broken if you are not doing what you need to do to reconcile, right? And so once I started to understand that I can't escape my past, I can't escape my pain. And so I made a very conscious decision to be a part of it. And being a part of it was extremely difficult, extremely challenging, but it was extremely necessary. I grew up in church where people would talk about, peace that surpasses all understanding. I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, how could that happen? That's not even possible. I'm at 38 years old. Like, I really have a enormous amount of peace that surpasses even my understanding at times. Sometimes I feel like I'm in this world alone because of just the peace, the overwhelming amount of peace that I feel. But it's not because there's something different or special about me than you. It really has to do with the things that I have been choosing to do. And so a lot of times we're filling up a lot of our space with things and people and just things that don't really matter to escape. And so the one person that's walked this earth that has done an amazing job that everybody admires, I want to bring him into this conversation so that he's the perfect example, right? Jesus, so that you can see the importance, since that's the person that a lot of people kind of look up to. I want to use him as an example on the importance of stillness. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to, I'm going to put it in the comments, these 3 verses so that you guys can have them. Let me see. Okay. So let me put this in the comments. Can I put it in the comments? I can't. So what I'll do is, oh no, you know what? I can go on my Facebook page and do it. Hold on, let me just do that real quick so that you guys can see those. So I want to just put these up so that I can share with you about the importance of stillness, the importance of being still. Let me see how I can do this. Let me go to Terrell's page. Okay. So I go live a lot, so that's the only reason why I'm able to maneuver this right now. I can't see y'all comments, but right now, because I'm trying to put this in, but here we are. I'll put it right here so that it can be in there. So there are these verses where Mark 1:35, it says, "And early in the morning, while it was still dark, he arose and went out and departed to a lonely place and was praying there." He's talking about Jesus in that verse. Luke 5:15, "Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that the crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sickness. But Jesus often withdrew to a lonely place and prayed. Here he was healing the sick and dealing with people, and he needed time alone to pray. The person that we admire, right? We're talking about how he's been having to pray and needing that alone time. Luke 6:12 and 16. It happened in these days that he went out to the mountain to pray. Again, he went out to pray, and he continued all night in prayer to God. When it was day, he called his disciples, and from them he chose 12, who he also named apostles. After prayer and taking inventory, he was able to make a decision. A decision is important. A lot of us are struggling right now because we feel like there's conflict going on, but we have to decide, what is it that we want to do? What are we going to choose to do? How are you going to make a decision if you're not being still to take inventory of what you need, right? So a lot of the times I always tell people it's always going to be you versus you. A lot of times it's not your partner, it's not your kids, it's not your job. A lot of it is you. And until you take that time to be clear with yourself, you're always going to feel like you're struggling. Feelings change. Feeling like you're struggling and struggling are two different things. And the last thing I want to say about this verse is at daybreak, this is Luke 4:42. At daybreak, Jesus went out to a solitary place. Solitary, you know what that means? He was alone. The people were looking for him. My kids be looking for me when I get, if I'm finished work, I gotta take some time to myself. They're gonna be looking, but they're gonna have to wait because I need that alone time, right? The people were looking for him, and when they came to where he was, they tried to keep him from leaving, right? So obviously Jesus was a very popular person who was needed, right, for all those people that struggle with having to care for people and have a lot on their plate. I understand what that looks like and feels like, but I also understand that it's not possible to be as productive as you can be and get as far as you know that you want to get to and where you can get to if you don't make that time for yourself. That's so important. And for people that are not used to creating that time, understand that doing so will feel very hard, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable, but that's okay because it's a part of the process. You cannot grow if you're comfortable, right? Being uncomfortable is a part of the process. So really like taking that time to get uncomfortable to really get what you need. So finding time to pray, to meditate is a lonely process. As I went through these are just like 4 scriptures that I found out of many, as I went through that lonely word came up a lot. And I know that's one of the main reasons why we struggle with that stillness is because we don't like the way it feels when we're alone. We don't like that space. When I started off as a therapist, people would talk about their struggle, and then there would be this pause, and I would be like, I gotta say something, right? Over the years, I've learned that pause is necessary. Sometimes it's people's first time actually like stating this stuff out loud. They've been turning it over in their head for a while. Then I'm asking these kind of leading questions, and they're making these statements, and they need time to like really process what's happening. And so it was a very uncomfortable process, but it was a very necessary process. And so like if you are planning on running a race, a 5K, you're never going to be able to do that if you're not going to start the process of doing that. Like maybe I'm going to start and do 0.25 miles, right? Then I'm going to do a half a mile in the next 2 weeks, but I'm going to build my way up. I say that because even as I talk about the importance of stillness and the importance of meditating and being with yourself, it's not something that I'm asking you to do only when you're struggling. It's something that is important to do even when you're not struggling. I think a lot of times we try to gravitate to maybe the Bible or, church or certain wellness practices when we are like feeling low. But imagine what could happen if you are making it a part of your life, like thinking about it as if it's your medicine, right? Like the same way that you may be on a medicine regimen, for surviving, right? Anybody that's struggling with diabetes or high blood pressure, you're taking that medicine because you got to survive, right? It's like, well, what medicine do I have in my life to live life, right? I said I grew up in church, but for me, it was like I was just going through the motions. Sunday, Wednesday, like we had all these church days, for me, I was going through the motions. Now, like the process and the way I lead my life and the way I'm guided by my spirit is a very intentional process. And so that part's important, is to like, how do I create an intentional process so that I can make sure that I have what I need, because life is going to happen. Like there's no way around life happening to you, right? Like there's pain in life, and the audacity of us to think that we can escape pain and ignore it. Like, how do you ignore parts of you? You can't. And I always say that, like, if there was a way for me to shut off the pain, I would do that so I can have the joy. But I'll never have the joy if I'm trying to escape from my pain, right? Because I'm losing parts of me because I'm numbing stuff. And so numbing your pain doesn't take it away, it just prolongs it. And so most of us need to really think about, like, how do I choose like long-term gratification over short-term gratification, right? So if I'm struggling and I'm waiting for the weekend just so I can party, so I can like get rid of that pain, but then Monday through Thursday, I'm still struggling more, that doesn't help me. Like I just stay on this roller coaster ride and I just find myself doing like this. But instead of me going out and trying to escape from my pain, I sit with myself and I take inventory. Instead of me scrolling on social media at night before I go to bed, I take 30 minutes and I take inventory of my day. I check in with myself, asking myself, like, how am I feeling? What was I affected by today? What is it that I need? How can I prepare myself for tomorrow? That's the only way that you're going to be able to get to that peace part. I'm going to ask Terrell to read this passage. So if he could come back onto the screen for me really quick. Before he ends up reading this part, so he's going to read Matthew 26, 36 through 46. And I want you to know, prior to this verse, Jesus is breaking bread with his disciples, and he understands that his time is ending. He knows that he's about to die. He also knows that he's about to be betrayed. So just imagine like all the chaos. Like if I knew I'm about to die, I know like my disciple, my homie's about to betray me. That's pure chaos, right? So I'm going to ask you to read Matthew 26, 36 through 46 for people, please.
Yes, got it. All right. It says, then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him and began to be sorrowful and troubled. Verse 38. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Verse 40. Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them, went away once more, and prayed a third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to his disciples and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes the betrayer.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that. You can go now. I like messing with him.
It's my page. I go when I feel like it. I'm just messing with you.
Thank you for reading that. He thought he was just going to be backstage and not do any work. I said, I got some work for you. So, you know, even in the midst of chaos, Jesus still made intentional time to pray. And I want to point out the part about him saying he began to be sorrowful and troubled because he talked about being overwhelmed. He talked about struggling, and that's okay. I think sometimes we say we just try to like say only positive statements or say like how are you? I'm fine, thank you. And it's not. I'm not saying you got to share it with the world. But let's just at least start being honest with ourselves about what we're feeling, right? Because there's no way to change what you're going through if you are not going to acknowledge what it is that you're feeling. Because if I can be clear about how I feel, then I can actually pay attention to what is it that I need, right? So if I'm just like feeling overwhelmed or anxious because let's say I got to come on this to Pastor Terrell's show, and I'm just like feeling anxious, but I'm not stating like I feel anxious because I'm going to go on the show, right? I'm going to go on the show. I've done this before. Then I start talking to myself and giving myself the tools that I need to get through this anxious moment, right? And so a lot of times there are all these things that are happening with us, but we're trying to stay positive, or we're trying to, and I say strong in quotation marks because I don't believe that being strong means that you are not acknowledging your vulnerability. I think that actually makes you very weak. When, again, remember, being vulnerable and having these vulnerable emotions are a part of the human experience. So if you really want to be strong, you got to start paying attention to what it is that you're feeling and what is it that you're needing. And obviously, Jesus is being led by his spirit. It was something he was able to do because he constantly practiced it, right? He put it into motion. So like this big chaos is happening and he's able to give himself what he needs. I think that is important. And, even though we're practicing, trying to give ourselves what we need and acknowledging what's happening, it doesn't mean the pain's going to come. But the difference is that we will be able to guide it, right? It won't be guiding us. Most of us, we're not being led by our spirit. We're being led by our wounds. We're being led by our hurt. We're being led by our pain. So we have these very like faulty glasses on. So I love analogies. So imagine if like you have some sunglasses and they're pink. And so you've always had them on, you've never taken them off. So in your mind, the sky's pink. And I'm like, nah, the sky's blue. But because that's been your only experience, that's the only thing you have to look at. But if you can work through like cleaning that lens off, taking off those glasses so that you can see that the sky's blue, so you can see what's available to you. Like most of us don't understand what's available to us because we're being led by our wounds. And so, I always like to tell people broken crayons still color. So no matter like what you've gone through or been through, there's still a place for you. You still hold value. And I don't think people really understand that. And also, even in the midst of chaos, Jesus was a part of community, right? And so even though I love talking about the importance of being stillness, it's very important to create community. This space here that Pastor Terrell has created is community, right? Where you're going on this journey, like this intentional journey with different people for the next 30 days, helps you build habits and work on this idea of like really completing. A lot of us are stopping some of the things that we started because of fear, so many different reasons why. But really being intentional about being a part of community. Because sometimes we have a lot of faulty narratives. And if we're only competing with our faulty thoughts, then it's going to be hard to really shake it up, right? So whether it's an online community, whether it's something that you're listening to, right? Really making sure that you're creating an environment where you are getting more of your spirit fed, right? So I always tell people, like, if I'm hungry, I'm going to go to the refrigerator. But if my spirit is empty, most of us aren't recognizing it. Most of us aren't saying like, oh, let me give myself something that I need. We don't even have like a toolbox. Like for me, like I'm a hiker. I love listening to motivational speakers, specifically like Les Brown. I love music. I love writing. I write out, I listen to audiobooks and I like take notes because the act of writing really helps me learn, right? Most of us our thoughts are very manufactured and we don't even recognize it, right? So if I'm not waking up and being intentional about my day, I'm choosing for society to guide it. And if we take a look at society right now, it's very chaotic. And so we really got to be mindful on what we say we really want and is in alignment with what we're doing for ourselves. I put up a post today and I said, if I'm spending 15 minutes at least, and most of us spend more time on social media, I can't tell myself I don't have time to journal. I can't tell myself I don't have time to do anything that's going to promote my wellness. And so this last verse I'm going to read because I want you to understand why it's important to be led by your spirit. And I'm going to put it in the chat so that Terrell can put it up. Because being led by your spirit is a powerful thing. It's something that's available to all of us. It's very much available to all of us. Oh yeah, I gotta put it. I'll put it in the private chat, and then you put it there. Okay. So Galatians 5:22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, there is no law. So there's as earlier I said, there's peace that surpasses all understanding. And when I think about that, because I'm being led by my spirit, I have such a clear mind, I do a lot of processing, right? So it's not that negative thoughts don't come my way, but I make sure to meet it at the door. It's not that I'm not like human and I don't experience life. I experience life, but I utilize the tools that I'm already doing to deal with life as it happens. That's important. And so I have like 3 takeaways I want you to think about. So taking an inventory of yourself internally. Some things we will see will be hard for us to see. Some of us are masking so much pain, so much shame. When we take inventory, the problem with masking that pain is that we end up bleeding by it, right? And so I know like nobody's going to sit here and tell me they want to be led by their pain. Like nobody would say that. But then you ask yourself, well, what am I doing so that I'm not being led by my pain, right? And then that's where it's a little conflict. It's like, well, actually, I could be a little bit more intentional, like, so really think about like, what is it that you're doing? The more questions you ask yourself, the more clarity you have. I'm a big question person. I have all of the same emotions that you have, but I'm questioning them. I'm asking myself what's going on. You have what you need. You're just not utilizing it. The problem with masking inside struggle is that it leads us, if I have a sore on my body, and the root of that sore is an internal infection. So if I have some medical people in here, you understand that, or if you ever had a sore and it was affected inside. So imagine that the root of it is internal, but on the outside, I see a sore, but there's a little bit more going on. If I just keep putting the Band-Aid on that sore, what's going to happen to my body, right? It's going to spread. And so the sore and wound is covered. People cannot see it, but internally you are being compromised. And I always say, like, I wish we could see in real time what we're doing to our bodies when we're not being mindful and intentional. But, we can't see it. But if we start being mindful and self-aware, we can actually pay attention to it. It's there, and I used to watch these movies where, you know, the voice of God comes. And so I would always be like, yo, where's God? Like, I didn't get that voice. Cause you know, in the movies they talked about a voice. And so, you know, now where I'm at in my life now, I understand that it's not about like this voice that's coming out of nowhere, like in the movies growing up. It's he gives you what you need. It's right in your environment. Some people right now, and they're struggling with something, or they're trying to get somewhere, and you think it's like, you know, I'm trying to get to Z, right? But right now in front of you, you got A and B, but because you don't see Z, right? You know, I'm talking about the alphabets because I love analogies. Because you don't see Z, you're at A, you're at B, and you're stopping the process because it's like, dang, well, Z's so far away, right? And so, like, he gave you that B. Now, once you do the B, guess what's going to happen? You're going to see C. And then once you do C, the more that I've started to do things, and especially in my entrepreneur life, the more clarity I get, the more ideas that come my way, right? So I think it's important that you like start somewhere, right? Even if it's not, you know, I think the problem is it's not like picture perfect. I remember when I was working for a nonprofit, and this guy said, Celeste, when are you going to like start your practice, right? This is the beginning of my entrepreneur journey. When are you going to start your practice? I said to this guy, he had like a pharmacy. He was like doing really well. And I was just like renting space at $10 an hour and doing it part-time, had my full-time job. He said, like, you know, when you going to get your space? I was like, when I get, you know, when everything comes together, when I get the building, when I get, you know, I gotta get stuff together. I'm waiting for it. He said, Celeste, people like you will never have their own because you're waiting for everything to be in a nice, neat little package. And so I'm somebody, it's like, is that a challenge? I said, say less. I remember I went on Craigslist that night and I was just looking. I live in Boston, and Boston rent is high. I went on Craigslist. And I was just looking at spaces because I'm like, this guy just told me I'm never going to have my own because I'm waiting for it to be in the package. I was like, say less. So I went on Craigslist and I found a space. I was like, oh, snap, honey, like I can afford this office space. And he was like, well, if you want to, you know, we had a house, and he said, if you want to, refinance and take out a year's rent on that space, then you can do that. And I had no excuses. And I think about that, like how that was the start. That guy saying, I needed to hear that because I was literally waiting for something to be in a nice, I needed to hear that. I got what I needed. I listened and then I looked, you know, and that's not no voice coming down. That's just somebody telling me what's happening in my head. And so sometimes it could be like these messages, it could be through experiences. And I didn't have that conversation and like go on about my day. I went home and I processed it. I thought about what he said and I was like, he's right. I am waiting. So really, really being mindful and taking inventory is important. How can you have peace if you are allowing your struggle to lead you? I don't believe this is God's intention for our life. I really don't believe it at all. Like, I refuse to believe that. He does not want us to just go through life with just go through the motions of surviving. In order for peace to take place, being still has to be part of the process. And the last thing I'll say is allowing the Spirit to penetrate you requires you to be still and make intentional time. Through prayer and meditation, and action, right? It's not just like, I'm just going to pray and just sit around and wait what happens. You know, we just read a few verses, you know, there's a lot of verses in the Bible. Jesus took a lot of action. Like he prayed, he took inventory, he made a decision, he got up, he went, right? So you sometimes as you're doing the prayer and the meditation part, but you're not doing the action part. That's important. You know, when we start to understand and do the action part, he's going to direct your path. What you need is going to become clearer and clearer and clearer to you. I always tell people, like, your mind and your body has no other choice but to fall in line with the direction that you're taking it. And so, like, I think most of us the direction that we're taking it is we're allowing society to lead it. We're allowing our wound to lead it. And, there's something powerful about the mind. The mind will do what you tell it to. So if I'm like, if I say like, I hate Mondays suck when I go to work, guess what's going to happen? My mind, Sunday night, I'm going to be anxious about getting up for Monday to go to work. Right. And I'm literally preparing my mind to be upset about Monday mornings. Before, I don't know what it is with the pandemic, everybody working from home a lot, but a lot of people had heart attacks on Monday morning, right? Why do you think that the rate was so high? Because people are dreading getting up. What makes Monday different from Tuesday? What makes Monday different from Friday? It's about the way you're framing it, right? So it's really important to pay attention to what you're feeding your mind, what you're telling your mind. Like that's very important. And so my favorite song, I'm going to just leave you with this one stanza from Travis Green. But when the noise is over, it's called Be Still and Know That I Am God. When the noise is over, and Pastor Terrell, you come on, a still small voice you will hear. I hope you believe me when I tell you that I will handle all of your cares. Just wait on me, be still, and know that I am God.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This was so amazing. So helpful. So Celeste, I don't know how many, I know you watched been with us a couple of days during this month of completion, but I've been saying all month that there's some people in your life that hate on you. They're haters. They do things to sabotage us. They don't want to see us do well. They hope we do bad. They hope we fail. Then there are actual hopers. Like they just hope we do well, but they're not going to lend a hand. But then they're helpers. Mm-hmm. God will put people in your life that will literally help you. And I said all month long, we wanted to bring people on that would share something, say something, give a story, give a testimony, give a word, strategy, skill, encouragement, whatever, to help the people. Mm-hmm. And Celeste, you have helped us tonight.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you. I'm so happy.
You have helped us. I mean, so I have 2 pages full of just notes, like, and I want to rehash. I just want to mention a couple of things that you said tonight, because this was helpful. You said being uncomfortable is a part of the process.
Yeah.
I love that so much. You also said that stillness doesn't feel good because we're alone, and we don't like that feeling of being alone. You said this in 2 different places, and it's so helpful because starting the process is important. Mm-hmm. And we have to start. And I have a lot of them. Let me give you 2 more. You said we cannot escape and we should not ignore the pain. Like when we're feeling pain, we cannot escape it. We should not try to ignore it. Then you said we have to sit with yourself and take inventory. Ask yourself a lot of questions. And then that text, that Matthew 26 text, I just saw so much in that when you was sharing. Just amazing. You talked about how you illustrate like this, give visuals and illustrations. And I love the analogy that you use, the whole A, B, and people can't see the Z, so they stop. But the Bible says this, and it's so clear. You were so on point that the word of God is a lamp unto our feet and a light to our path. Simply, he doesn't show us the whole route. We just see step by step. And we're not going to see the next step until we take a step.
Yeah.
And then having people around you like now who want to encourage you to take that step. Because here's the thing, I'm convinced, Celeste, that either knowingly, which would be so cynical, or subconsciously, people don't want people to go after their dreams because they feel like it'll take away from them helping them with their dreams.
Yeah, and I also think that, like I always say, like if I go to a heart doctor because I need my feet hurt, and the doctor keeps talking about the heart, it's like, what else would I expect? And I think some people in our lives, they don't see your vision. Joseph is a really perfect example for people that are not familiar with the story of his brothers, and he had this birthright, and they sold him, and they sold him away. And I think that they were very jealous of him, and didn't want to see him win. And this forgiveness thing too is like a part of when you're taking inventory. Like I can only imagine how angry. Like that's one of my favorite stories in the Bible, because the anger and the pain from your own family. When you talk about people not wanting to see you win, they didn't want their own brother to see him win. And he still won anyway, because guess what's going to happen is the brothers don't have the last say. God has the last say. And even when they needed his help, he was there and he helped them, and he was able to release some of that pain that he felt. So, you got that going on. Like, yes, there may be people in your life, but in this case, they casted him away. In some cases, you may just have to step away. And in some cases, you just got to stop telling them, we could say, well, Joseph should have never told him his vision. And some people you just can't tell your vision to, because they don't even believe it for themselves. So how you expect them to believe it for you? And it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're growing and you want the people in your circle to grow with you. But, they may not be ready for that growth, and you have to be willing and ready to keep going, even if they're not ready for that.
Yeah, it's so good. And you're so right. Sometimes we simply have to stop telling our dreams to people who have decided to live a perpetual nightmare.
Yeah. It's a choice.
It's a choice. They've decided to live this nightmare, to rehash, to be a victim, not to say they didn't go through anything, but they allowed themselves to now adopt that victim's mentality.
There you go. Yeah.
And so we got to be careful. So this is so good. I mean, again, I got 2 pages of notes. People out there in YouTube land and Facebook land, were you helped tonight? If you all took notes, put in some of the quotes or things that resonated with you tonight, or thoughts that were triggered.
With those notes, everyone, right? Don't let them collect dust. When I was studying to get my license, I failed my first test, and I took a book and I started taking notes of the things that I needed help with. I would read it. I didn't take notes and put it down and close it. I read it, right? It started to penetrate me. I started to dream about diagnoses and everything that has to do with me getting my license. And I want that to happen for you. But you got this program here with Terrell. It feels good. It feels good because you're in an environment that's promoting this. I'm very intentional about what I'm talking about today. So why wouldn't it feel good when you get off of this program now and step into your environment? Your system is not going to remind you about what I said. So when you get off this program in the next 2 weeks of these programs, thank you, Terrell, for doing this. This is dope. You got to be intentional about setting time to remind yourself to go over that and create a plan for yourself. This intentionality in living life may be a foreign concept to your body, and your body will reject it. Sometimes you feel like you're in a war, which, when you're trying to change, it's because you really are in a war, because you're really introducing something good to your body. The same way you introduce a good heart to your bad heart, your body may reject that good heart because it's so used to the bad heart. But the doctors are going to tell you to do some things, be intentional, take this medicine, don't do this. Eventually it starts to acclimate to your body. The same thing can happen if you start to be intentional about what you're going to do to live life. Like, don't just let this be a feel-good message. That's the last thing I'll say.
Okay, that's well, let the church say amen. That's the last thing that needs to be said. Hallelujah. Listen, people of God, she has said what needs to be said. No more that I need to add to this tonight. Y'all know preachers, we just love to talk, and so I'm going to be quiet. Let this all soak and set in. If you want to be a part of the accountability circle, it's not too late. If you want a text message from me when I'm coming on, if you want a daily encouraging word message or something in your text message, emails, etc., just go to cterrellwheat.com/finish and just jump in with us. We still have a lot of month left for us to continue to work on one thing, at least one thing, as hard as we possibly can, to see what happens. Celeste, you crushed it, woman of God. You crushed this thing. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you always.
When the earth opens back up, when the Lord says so, we're gonna bring you to Chicago. So I have a you know about my inner circle that I have, because we're in the secret society together. But yeah, I'm gonna bring you in. This is life-changing stuff you gave tonight. I don't know if you know how powerful this was, but this is just incredible. So thank you.
If you say it, then I believe it. You're the man of prayer.
Go through and look at these comments. How can they follow you? How can they find your podcast? All of those things. You want to put it in the chat? I'll put it up or something, or you want to tell them how you want to do that?
Yeah, so just celestetherapist.com. You can find links to everything on celestetherapist.com. The podcast, I talk to people that are doing things to empower the lives of others. Terrell blessed my podcast. First prayer I had on my podcast. We prayed on the podcast. So it's not like we don't talk about religion on the podcast, but I do recognize that there are different things that people need to heal, and I think prayer is one of them, but there are also other things that we need. And so I bring other people on that are empowering people in different capacities to help people. I think there's something powerful about storytelling. You realize you're not alone. And so people come on and they share their story and talk about what they do.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. So follow her. Go to celestetherapist.com. Get all the information. Follow her. Download the podcast. Listen in and just be blessed. And so, again, thank you. I just can't say that enough. You were amazing tonight. This was so good. All right, you all. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, day 19, month of completion. Thank you all so much. Again, y'all follow my sister and my friend Celeste. Y'all have a wonderful night. And if you have not touched or worked on the thing that you're working on today, go ahead and spend another 15 minutes tonight and work on that thing. And so, God bless you. And we will see you tomorrow. All right. Peace.